The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and they get.
He missed the pit complete. That is crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
Hundreds of competitors, 20 clubs, 7 races, 4 broadcasters, 2 tracks, and 1 long day of racing. After all that, it comes down to this, the final heat race of the day to decide the last club to enter the finals and the plucky wild card to who will get a chance to upset the big boys in the championship round. Welcome to Road Atlanta one last time, ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready to watch the iRacing World Cup live on the Global Sim Racing channel. I'm Joe Peak. With me in the booth are Richard Losper and Bill Zahn. Our cameras have been provided by Dougie Beard and are directed by Kevin Brown. This is, of course, the top split of Group D, and even though our viewers who've been following the World Cup all day are probably extremely familiar with the Road Atlanta track by now, Richard, why don't you tell us a little bit about this circuit?
Certainly, Joe, and good day to everybody. Well, Road Atlanta is known as the roller coaster, and it is one roller coaster, let me say. It's 2.54 miles in length, the track, and 4.08 kilometers. 12 turns, but there are huge elevation changes and blind corners. We have ourselves a 45 minutes race here. There'll be 1 pit stop. The race will actually be about 32 laps, Joe.
So we'll have to keep an eye out for pit strategy and see how that plays out throughout the day. Well, with qualifying working its way through at the moment, as you can see cars out on track, we are going to jump to a lap guide and see what it's like on board these roof cups. All right, we've got Kevin Brown behind the wheel of the GSRC roof, so let's do a lap around Road Atlanta. Down the front stretch to turn 1, a very fast, tricky corner right off the bat. The rear of the roof likes to come around if you overcook it, and with very little runoff, it can be lights out very quickly here. Then it's the nefarious turns 2 and 3. Both have blind apexes, and the curbs can easily disturb the car. You have to be aggressive for a fast lap, but treat them with respect. After turn 4, you dive down the hill through the S's. Very much a single file section of the track. This leads into the uphill turn 5. Another corner where getting it wrong can end your day fast. The compression and then the crest can make the car do weird things when you least expect it. As we head towards 6, this is a potential passing zone, but this corner is faster than you'd think. Banking allows you to really carry the momentum. Then there's no time before you hit the most critical corner of the track, turn 7. This is a very slow turn, but it's the exit that makes the biggest difference. As you can see, it dumps you onto the backstretch, so a slow getaway will leave you very vulnerable all the way down this acceleration zone. So even though I said turn 6 offers a passing opportunity, this is probably the better place to give yourself a go. And that's because of what's approaching, the chicane. It switches back and forth, so passes can be made whether you position yourself on the inside or the outside. But the downhill braking zone means you need to be careful not to outbrake yourself. Expect most of the passes to happen at this part of the track. From here, we gather the car together, crest the hill, and just make a little lift for the final corner. As long as you don't bin it, you've finished a lap around Road Atlanta. As you can see, this track is going to test these cars today with them being a little bit slippery on the rear-engined roof machines out there. However, let's talk about the championship real quick. Obviously, with this being the last race of the day, seeing the oval round, if you caught that, it was an exciting one, that's for sure. Florida came out on top with 513 points, and these are unofficial results. This is what we tallied ourselves here at GSRC. We'll try and get confirmation from the officials of the World Cup on this. Texas in second at 493 points. Virginia is sitting in third at 302. Carolina at 122, and California down at the bottom with 90 points. Unfortunately, not everybody seeming to show up in the Virginia's, Carolina's, and California clubs, including, I understand, I don't believe there are many California, if at all, in one of the lower splits I heard before. And speaking of the splits, Bill, they have an interesting system here to make sure that the top guys wind up in the top races.
Yeah, Joe, I hesitate to do this because viewers who've been watching this all day have heard this 7 times before, so here's the 8th time. It's probably going to be about as exciting as a blind safety instruction, but here's basically what's going on. You got 5 clubs. 15 drivers on each at the most, and 5 drivers are assigned to each of the splits. Now let me explain. In a few minutes, there's going to be 3 simultaneous races are going to take place. Split 3 is going to be like kind of your pop quiz worth 20% of the grade. Split 2 is going to be like the midterm worth 30% of the grade. And the race we're about to see, the one we're going to cover, is Split 1, and that's like your final exam worth 50% of your grade. Now, another way to look at it is to imagine like Friday night high school football, where the sophomore team, the JV, and the varsity teams are all playing at the same time on 3 different fields. So each club gets to place 5 drivers at the most in a split. Now, the top 4 drivers from each club, from each split, contributes the points for the grand total. And you add the whole thing up. When you're all done, you add up all the points from this road race, you combine it with the points from the oval race, and the top team is going to get to join the Germany, Austria, Switzerland combination team. They've already moved on. The UK, Ireland team has moved on, and Finland has made it into the finals. And just to add a little more interest, there's also a wild card that I think Texas or Florida has a good chance of getting into to make 2 U.S. squads in the finals. And so there you have it. And in case of a water landing, your seat cushion can be used as a flotation device. Joe?
Well, I'd hate to see what kind of dress they put you in for that, Bill. But anyways, yes, as Bill said, Diach scored 10,000, and 85 points. UK and Ireland scored 1,074. Finland, 1,110, it looks like, and Iberia at 818. And Iberia is the important one, being the wild card. Texas or Florida, whoever winds up in second in this race, needs to score at least 819 points to advance as the wild card and beat Iberia. Seems like a tall task. However, this has been a little bit short of drivers, it seems, in this heat. So unfortunately, not seeing as much participation as we would have liked. However, since we've talked about the points, let's talk about this car a little bit. I mentioned it's a rear-engine car, Richard. What are these drivers looking at today as far as handling out on that course?
Well, I've done a few laps with the C-Spec car, not as many as some, obviously. Now, this is a full-on race car. There's plenty of power, and it comes from a normally aspirated flat 6 engine, and it has a beefy 6-speed sequential gearbox, and it's also got twin independent brake systems. So a very powerful car. Carries a fair amount of weight, 2,645 pounds or over 1,200 kilos. Puts out, Joe, over 430 horsepower. So you can imagine there's a lot of power to play with. This is a very, very tricky track to race on, and the car at the best of times can very easily get loose in the rear. And on a tricky track like this, with lots of tight corners, you can expect some guys to get loose. And some of the races that I watched, even the best drivers were getting that car to come around on them, and sometimes even into a spin. So a lot of power, not that much traction on the rear. So you have to be really careful when you have to ease the power on in this car. Also, with those brakes, you can't brake this car too hard. It does not like that at all. You need to ease on the brakes as well, and you got to try and get the power down early to make the car do what you want to at the front. So a very difficult car to drive today, a very challenging track as well. This is one heck of a combo, Joe.
Yeah, and I'm very eager to see how these drivers handle it. I was watching some of the previous races, and even the top drivers were struggling with some of these corners. There's difficult and even lower powered cars, so these things will definitely be a handful. Now, Bill, the clubs that we've had our eye on, at least in the oval race, were Texas and Florida, and it looks like that's going to be the case here as well.
Yeah, it's an all-U.S. group here, and you can really break these clubs down. Texas and Florida are probably your contenders, and then the Virginias, Carolina, singular. We don't know why Carolina is singular, why that's not Carolinas. I'm going to call it Carolinas from here on out. And California are going to be like your spoilers. But really, when it comes down to it, there's not enough. Virginia, Carolinas, and California just don't have the manpower to break into the top 2. Now, they can do a little damage. If they get up there, they can start stealing points away from the second place club, which I think is going to have a good chance, either Texas or Florida, of being the wild card, because Iberia sits at 818 points, and Texas right now after the ovals is at 493, so they're well within striking distance of beating Iberia's score if they have enough drivers in the other splits. But really, when it comes down to it, it's going to be an oil versus orange juice, a Longhorn versus the Gators, a battle of the bushes, and I'm not talking about Kyle and Kurt. I'm talking about George and Jeb. This is going to be between Texas and Florida today, boys.
Well, I'd be careful mentioning Gators because of our director currently. I believe he is missing a game or something at the moment. But anyways, I'm very eager to see which of these, and we're familiar with some of the drivers out there. We've seen Amjad Yaman a lot. He's in Texas Club. We know he is very good in GT racing, and he certainly knows how to handle the pit stops. We call him the doctor here at GSRC with his canniness and strategy. So I would not count him out. Currently sitting second in qualifying, actually. And I would not put it past him to be able to pull something out of his hat for a potential win today. So with about 3 minutes left in qualifying, I'm seeing about 14 cars having put laps in, and I think we have about 15 out there. Yes, we got 15 cars out on track, so not quite the 25 that we had hoped for, but we'll see how this goes as Jamie Macari works his way up through the S's to try and put in a few more laps in. It looks like we got 2 minutes left on the clock for qualifying. So let's talk a little bit about the track here, Richard. I know we touched on a little bit before. Some of the passing zones. Main one seems to be that chicane.
That is correct. The chicane is right at the end of a very long straight. In actual fact, Joe, it's not that straight. It has a couple of curves in it. It's also got a very severe downhill section just before you approach the chicane. But obviously, after a long straight, that is the most popular place to attempt a pass. If you can get a good run out of turn number 7, which brings you onto that straight, then you have an excellent chance at running down your opponent in front of you and perhaps getting on the inside. Another thing, mind you, I should say, another thing about the chicane, I have seen it done on both sides, from the inside and from the outside as well. So that is your most popular place to make a pass. The other places are certainly at turn number 1. It's very, very risky, but you can get it done in turn number 1 as well. So those are probably the best places to make your passes. There are some really good or bad, I should say, danger zones that you need to worry about. Turn 3 will catch a lot of people out. It's a blind crest, and you have to be so careful, particularly in this car, which doesn't turn all that well. And of course, turn number 5, which is the left-hander with the grass verge and the off-camber section as well. So a very tough track, Joe, and the guys will have put in hopefully a lot of practice laps to get it right.
And one last thing we should mention about these clubs, I can't remember if Bill, you had mentioned it or not. With this being an all-American group, I know it was mentioned in the last broadcast, that means we will have, for the first time in 3 years, an American club getting to the finals. And it looks like the checkered flag is out for qualifying, so guys are going to complete their hot lap. Now, Bill, one thing as I was watching the other races that I noticed is that a few drivers seem to have a little bit of a problem with that pit entry.
Yeah, you know, it's a sneaky pit entry, or a couple ways. It's on the right-hand side, and it's kind of almost a blind entry. But what really is kind of tough is you can get caught up with cars, faster cars, trying to do a hot lap. So you really have to be careful to get off the track. And, you know, it's always nice if you just give out a pit, going into the pit signal to let guys know that you're going in, because I've seen many cars collected before they get to the pit lane.
Yes, and if you were watching, I believe it was Group C, one driver even hit the inside pit wall and then slid into the outside pit wall on his way into the pits. So it is definitely one that you have to be practicing, and I'm sure many of these drivers have been doing that, knowing that they will have to make pit stop strategy during this race. So with just a little bit more time left, I see Gary Anderson looks like he might be completing his lap out there as he comes over the hill down across that very fast, very scary final corner. There's not much runoff there at all. So that can be a place where if it goes wrong, that can end your day. So Gary completes his lap and just sneaks in beyond last place, actually, it looks like, with that one. So nice job to Gary. Let's go through the order since everyone has put their laps in now. Amjad Yaman comes out on the pole with a 1:23.933, 5 100ths behind him. Jamie Macari sitting behind him, and he is in Texas as well, so Texas front row. And then we have... Excuse me, I was just trying to get...
iRacing kind of screwed us up there a little bit.
There we go. Yes, now I've got it together. Tony Lombardi at third, Joel Harshberger in fourth, Rob Cody in fifth, and in sixth, Richard, it's Bill Brown.
Yes, bearing in mind, Bill Brown, I think, is the same Bill Brown that won the oval race. Chad Holmes, Jack Hinchman, in 7th and 8th, Andy Frame, Eric Hansard, and Derek Waller in 10th place. Bill?
Zachary Morris, Brandon, I don't have my glasses, shuffle off there, Gary Anderson, and William Vandiver wrap up the back of the field.
And that is our 15-car field that's going to start this race. Looks like a few drivers are going to have to deal with the curve on the start, one of those unique features of Road Atlanta. And especially drivers in the mid-pack are going to have to watch out on turn 3, like 7th place Chad Holmes. Certainly wouldn't want to be in his position, that's for sure. So as we wait for the lights to come up and give us the green flag, cars are sitting there on the grid. There's the lights. Cars are revving up their engines. Last round to go. This decides it all. Green flag is out on the World Cup of iRacing. Amjad Yaman gets a fantastic start. However, it looks like for Jamie Macari, it is an absolutely awful start. Coming up on the outside is Joel Harshberger coming around on turn 1. Looks like he's going to try and get himself into second position. He might be able to have it. They're going too wide up to turn 3. And yes, slots up into second position from 4th place for Joel Harshberger. Incredible start, Richard.
Yes, and the big loser there was Jamie Macari, who now finds himself in the 4th position. Meanwhile, we have Amjad Yaman making a clean getaway early on in this first lap. Second is, we do have, in 4th place, Jamie Macari had a really bad start, and the number 2 car got a really good start. So the number 2 car of Joel Harsberger in 2nd place. So great start from him. Long race to go, 45 minutes of racing, about 32 laps. They can go 25 laps, remember, before they will have to pit, Joe.
And already Amjad Yaman starting to pull away and give himself a nice little gap ahead of Joel Harshberger sitting in 2nd. And Tony Lamberti is going to want to try and get past him. Joel obviously in the Florida club, and just behind him, Tony in the Texas club. They want to try and dominate this thing right now. They're looking very good. And just a heads up, I did not see any contact in the back, or at least nobody spun around. So it looks like, Bill, it was a pretty clean start overall.
Yeah, very clean. And the guy I want to keep an eye on here is Rob Cody. He's the fly in the ointment. He's really the only non-Florida Texas driver up there. He's from Virginia, the Virginias, and he's running 5th right now. Very comfortable, very smooth, and keep an eye on him to get up to a podium here before this is over.
In fact, sitting right behind him, you can see Chad Holmes as they slide through turn 4, now down into the S's. Chad obviously pressuring him, wanting to get up into that position. Chad is in the Florida club, so he's going to try and get as many positions as he can as we hop on board with his roof and head down towards turn 6, Richard.
Yep, and at the moment it is Amjad Yaman from Texas in the number 1 position, followed by Joel Harshberger from Florida. Then another Texas in Tony Lamberti and Jamie Macari. And then Rob Cody from Virginia. So a good job there from Rob Cody. Chad Holmes is sitting in 6th place at this point in time from Florida. And then the first Carolina in Zachary Morris. So early days, yet tough race as we see Chad Holmes trying to make a move on the guy in front of him. Doesn't get it done. Very tough to try and do it here with this car, Joe.
Meanwhile, we're looking at side-by-side between Tony Lamberti and Joel Harshberger. Joel manages to get the over-under and hold on to the position. Great racing from these two. And again, this is Joel Harshberger in the Florida Club. And, oh, looking on the inside for Tony. He's going to try and take a go into turn 1. Joel gives him room. Oh, and he almost goes off into the grass. He loses momentum, and the spot goes to the Texan.
Yes, indeed. And now we have a battle here with Rob Cody and Chad Holmes in the back. Rob Cody nearly got into the back of Chad Holmes really nearly got into the back of Cody as they go now into that very difficult turn number 5. They all single file at this point in time. But look at the lead that Amjad Yemen has on the rest of the field, Joe. This is unbelievable.
He is very much stretching that lead. I think that was helped out by Joel Harshberger. I don't think he quite had the pace, so his teammate has lost a little bit of time, but that's not as important as his position. As long as he holds that second place, Tony is golden. We are getting word that Texas is the top 3 in split 3. In fact, Texas, as far as I understand, is leading all 3 splits at the moment, looking very good for the club down south.
Well, that's really they putting it to the rest of the American Club. There we see a car off on the grass, and that was, who was that? That Chad Holmes got into him. I think that was Rob Cody, Bill.
Yep, that was Rob Cody, and Chad Holmes was the one that took the brunt of that, and that was Florida Club. That was the flying the ointment that Bill was talking about. Oh, just loses it under braking, tries to dive to the inside, and poor Chad had nowhere to go.
Yep, and he's heading into the pits right now, Joe. So a tough break there for Chad Holmes, who started in 7th position, heading into the pits. But the race is going on without him at the moment. Amjad Yemen still leading by, wow, he's leading now by 4 seconds already. So it's Texas, and then Tony Lamberti now in the 007 car, also from Texas. So Texas 1 and 2 at the moment.
And, Zachary Morris has an off, and he is currently sitting in 5th position, losing a couple more, actually. That was in turn 5, just caught a glimpse of that. Jack Hinchman trying to go around the outside. Texas Club driver trying to move up just one more spot and not giving up for Zachary Morris as he holds on to the inside, but he gets some wheel spin, almost loses it, holds on, but the bad exit out of turn 7 really has hurt him, and Bill Brown is going to try and sneak up the outside with Eric Hansard trying to follow him through.
Yes, indeed, Bill Brown, and then there's the 33 machine of Zachary Morris. They side by side, nearly 3 wide at this point in time. Zachary Morris trying to go around the outside of the chicane, not a good idea, Zachary. And now he falls back into line again. Bill Brown didn't quite get that done, but now he's on the inside of Zachary Morris, still trying to get that position from him. Goes back into line because of the tough corner there, the final turn. You really have to back off the throttle a little bit to get through that corner, and he thought the better of it. Now just in front of Eric Hansard, we've got Bill Brown still trying through turn 3, nothing doing there. Back into line they go, Joe.
Boy, if it was a bad idea to go around the outside of the chicane, nobody told Zachary Morris, because he did a fantastic job getting around both Bill Brown and Eric Hansard. He basically outbraked both of them to get his position back that he'd almost lost from his bad exit, and already is all over Jack Hinchman once again. And these two are Carolina for Zachary, and Jack Hinchman is a Texas driver. So Carolina not as much in this, but like Bill said, could possibly spoil the party for these Texas guys. Although, Bill, I have to say, Florida is not looking too good right now.
Maybe not for the win, but I still think we're going to see them in the finals. I think there's not enough competition now, especially with looks like Rob Cody, who we saw in the collision earlier about a half a lap ago, has lifted into the pits. I think his day is done.
We've hopped on board with Hansard, who's trying to chase down Bill Brown in that yellow roof just in front of him. Bill Brown, of course, being a Florida Club driver. So again, actually, what is Hansard? Hansard's Florida, so these guys don't really need to swap position. They just need to move up. And I'm wondering, it looked like with Hansard getting up on that bumper, I wondered if they were going to play some team tactics and let him on through. Just behind them, though, they do have Derek Waller, and Waller is a Texas driver, so these guys will want to hold him up as much as possible.
Yeah, Well, you know, in the top 4 is 3 Texas drivers and 1 Floridian, as I heard Samuel say. That's Joel Harshberger. And then we have the first Florida driver. So Florida needs to hang on to that 3rd position. Certainly, they're in 5th as well with Andy Frame. And then way down in 8th and 9th with Bill Brown and Eric Hansard. So a tough race at this point in time. I think the guys are starting to get to grips with this track right now. The tires of the cars have some heat in them, so they'll be able to start putting down some better laps now, or they'll have a little bit more grip. But you know, we're only on lap 6 and there's still a pit stop to come, Joe.
We're watching Eric Hansard try to chase down Bill Brown, looking a little bit to the inside into the chicane. And we understand that there was a pass attempt with Morris, but I didn't quite catch it. Unfortunately, he is working on Jack Hinchman still. And unfortunately, got a bad exit. That means that Bill Brown is looking on the back of that black roof. Oh, and a spin! We got a spin from Eric Hansard. Is trying to be avoided by a Texas car, and another car sneaks by just outside of that final corner, trying to get that car going again. That is a very precarious place to be.
Absolutely, the 338 machine there of Eric Hansard. Spins going into the final corner to get onto the front straight. He's got the car going again now, but he will be many seconds behind the rest of the field right now.
He was oh so lucky to be avoided by both those machines. It was a Texas Club car and a Florida Club car. I didn't quite see who it was. We are still watching Bill Brown, though, who is holding on to the back of Zachary Morris. Just a side note, as we continue to watch this, I did see that William Van Diver had an off coming into the chicane, so he is well off the pace and a little bit far down, but still out there and still trudging on. Now onto the backstretch we go on lap 7 for Morris and Brown. This time Brown not nearly close enough, but the draft will start to reel him in ever so slightly as they head towards that chicane.
And also watch Morris on the guy in front of him, which is Jack Hinchman. He's made up a number of car lengths on Jack Hinchman. Really exciting driver, Zachary Morris. Not afraid to put the car in there as they go through the final turn number 10, and get back onto the front straight to start lap number 8. So these are the guys that we're talking about here. In fact, 6th, 7th and 8th place. 6th, 7th and 8th. Jack Hinchman, Zachary Morris for Carolina. That is the only Carolina car in the top 10 there, I think. So we will want this car to, well, all Carolinas will want this car to do really well to give them any chance whatsoever. But at the moment, Joe, it's Texas and Florida.
As we just about expected, quick update, Brandon Schulhoff has headed into the pits, but let's stay on this with Zachary Morris still in a little bit of a sandwich here between Bill Brown and Jack Hinchman. 3 cars have been very close for much of this race as they head over the backstretch. Zachary Morris got a terrible exit. In fact, I think he dipped 2 wheels off into the grass. Bill Brown has a decent run. The draft is going to start to reel him in down this long and winding backstretch. You can see the crests, and as it weaves back and forth, now heading down into the braking zone of the chicane. Bill Brown not quite close enough, though. Despite his good exit, doesn't even look at the pass, so he's going to have to hope for another chance later on. Still on lap 8, and so far the only car that I think has taken a legitimate pit stop that wasn't for damage is Brandon Schulhoff, so we'll have to wait and see.
Joe, just an update on that, sorry to cut in there. Rob Cody is in the pits as well. Looks like he's got some damage. Something must have happened to him that we did not catch, but he is sitting in the pits at the moment.
He's got a lot of damage on the right side of that car as we see another car with damage. Brandon Schulhoff cruise on by, so I wonder if that wasn't a legitimate stop by Schulhoff. In fact, significant damage there on that blue machine from the Carolinas. As we continue on, I'm getting some more information on the other splits. Scott Gruber from Texas is dominating split 3. Also, split 2 is being led by Sam Boren, also from Texas, 2.5 second lead ahead of Dalton Baldwin in Florida. So we've at least got a Floridian in second in split 2. However, right now, Bill, I still say it is looking very good for Texas at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like the race for second. Let's go up and see that.
We've got a battle. They're side by side going towards the chicane, and Joel Harshberger is going to make the pass. Tony Lamberti thought about coming back at him from the outside, did not attempt to try that again. Wisely, I thought, and we have a new second place. Sorry, that was for third place. So Tony Lamberti into...
You're
Sorry, go
correct,
ahead.
Richard. You're correct, Richard. That's for second place, the Joel Harshberger that has moved up into it. I'm sure our director would call that Gator grit there that has gotten him up. He's not giving up at all for Florida.
Well, this is exactly right. Joel Harshberger from Florida into second place. Good for them. Tony Lamberto from Texas in third place. Jamie McCurry. Joe, after having qualified very well, kind of way down in the standings there. Not a good race for him.
And William Van Diver, we caught just a glimpse of him going off once again in turn 5. William being a driver for the Carolinas. He has a bit of damage on his car, we understand, so he's having a hard time as he gets laps. Let's look at the replay, see if we can figure out what happened there. This is coming up into turn 5. Oh, it spins even before he gets to turn 5 there. And thankfully keeps that out of that wall, which can very quickly send you into the pits prematurely. We're also getting information that there was a huge wreck in split 2. Second place driver Baldwin spun in the final corner and collect third place driver Cockrell. And Baldwin is Florida, Cockrell, Texas. So those clubs suffering some harshness in split 2. Meanwhile, we watch Lamberti in third place as he trails Joel Harshberg. Just behind him, it's Jamie McCurry, also in the Texas club.
Yes, and just for the sake of having another club, do well, I'm going to root for Joel Harshberger from Florida. He's right in the middle of 3 Texas drivers. Amjad Yaman, Tony Lamberti, and Jamie McCurry. So for mine, I'm rooting for Joel Harshberger to hang on to that second place and come home for Florida.
And whoa, a little bit of attempt from Tony Lamberti there for that second place. He really wants that spot back. Looks a little bit to the inside coming through turn 7, but nothing doing. Now they're going to have an opportunity down into 7. It was a decent exit for Lamberti on Harshberger, but not good enough to really get him an impressive run. But the draft is, again, going to start to pull him in down into the braking zone. Is he going to take a look? Yes, he does. He's a long ways back. This is going to be a wild dive if he tries for it. Still tries to take a little bit of a look. In fact, Harshberger gives him room, almost pulls the over-under, but Harshberger has the better exit on Lamberti. Doesn't quite have the inside heading into this final corner. Harshberger still gives him room. He's playing a little bit too nice, I have to say, and this means the momentum is going to go to Lamberti, who just plucks the spot into turn 1.
Yes, they're going to turn 1. Joel Harshberger doing what I think is probably the right thing there, Joe. These cars are tough to get around these tight bends. They may seem wide open to slower cars, but with these cars and their tendency to want to the back come around on them, it's very, very difficult when you're in a too wide situation. So he did what he thought was best there and gave up the second position momentarily to Tony Lamberti. Now let us have a look. Where is Jamie McCurry? He's right on the back of Harshberger, so he's not too far away. So this is a 3-way battle here for that second place, Joe.
Absolutely. And Bill, it looked like we were getting some information on the tires from one of our spotters. It sounds like they might be going off at this point.
Yeah, I think lap 8 or 9, this is where they're going to start to wear a little bit, and the cars are going to get a little bit slippery. I think somebody like Amjad Yaman, who has that nice lead, certainly going to consider taking tires. I'd be surprised if he didn't. Just to follow up here with a little home cooking, Brandon Scholoff, who looped it and put it in the wall, is the only California driver, and I'm from California, so I'll give him a little screen time. He's currently running, the last car running actually right now in 13th position in that kind of blue lavender colored car. Oh, I'm colorblind, but nice job. I'm glad to see him back.
You got it
there.
right this time.
All right, good. So he's our only California driver. He's back out there. And of course, Rob Cody had that incident that we saw. He's actually out of the race.
Bill's on his A game today. He's getting colors right. And Rob Cody is still out on track. He's sitting in 15th at the moment. We're getting word that Chris Sigmund started at the back and raced his way up to second and spun into the wall. That is in split 2. So Chris Sigmund looking at a good result until
we got
misfortune.
Ben Diver is off the track. He's going to pull it back on. looks like he's really having trouble getting it going again.
I think this is the third or fourth time we've seen him go off, so this is not Van Diver's day. And this is in top split for the Carolina driver. So I'm not sure if they just struggled for participation, but obviously one of their drivers didn't get enough practice today. Meanwhile, looking at Joel Harshberger still sitting in that third position in a Texas sandwich here, as Tony Lamberti leads him and Jamie McCarry threatens from behind. But he's been doing very good for Florida in that little green car, trying to represent well. In fact, he's not giving up, really close on the back of Lamberti, but not close enough to make anything happen as he backs McCarry up just behind him. But no passing opportunities as they head through the chicane and down to complete yet another lap.
And they go on to lap number 14. These three cars have been glued together for that second position. Tony Lamberti, Joel Harshberger, Jamie McCarry. And then we have about 7 seconds back, we have Andy Frame. But now they go into turn number 3. They are line astern, as you like to say, Joe. But still staying in line, very respectful of the car and the track. If you try anything really out of the ordinary, you may well end up in a wall. So these guys have to keep that in mind, race hard as they can, but yet try to keep the car under them, because this car can get away from you so easily.
I'll tell you what, the Gregor Hutu of this race that we haven't talked about a lot is Yaman, sitting almost 12 seconds ahead of Tony Lamberti, who's the Texas driver, in second. So Yaman has absolutely been destroying everybody this far into the race, been completely unchallenged since the start, even though, no, excuse me, I was going to say he qualified in second, but he did qualify on the pole. So Amjad Yaman has been really grabbing this race with both hands, Richard.
Yeah, that's correct. He qualified in first place with a 123.933. He's got this car by the scruff of the neck. He goes through turn 1. I've been watching him for a little while now. Very smooth. Brakes nicely. Goes into the turns. He can afford to be gentle with this car now with that sort of lead, Joe. And, you know, he's obviously put a lot of practice in, because he is doing it so easily. In fact, he's coming up to a back marker already.
Well, the doctor obviously putting on a clinic for everybody today, showing them how it's done, as he has Brandon Schulhoff, you mentioned, the lapped car that he needs to lap, but that's a little ways up the road. I think he's got maybe another lap before he gets to him. We understand that there's a little bit of damage showing on Amjad somewhere on his car. Trying to see if I can spot that left front. Yeah, it looks like the left front of his car, ever so slight. So it doesn't look like it's hurting him, though, at this point. Well, as we've given enough screen time to a car all by itself on the track, let's jump a little bit farther back to Joel Harshberger, who has Jamie McCarry still behind him, but Joel's starting to lose ground to Lamberti, it looks like.
Yeah, it's Joel Harshberger at one stage was ahead of Lamberti. Lamberti made a nice move on him, and now seems to be pulling away just a fraction. But we did mention that the tires go off after about lap 8 or 9, and he could be suffering with that if you push too hard. You're obviously going to have more tire wear. So what has happened to McCarry? McCarry's coming into the pits. This could well be a regulation pit stop here, Joe.
And McCarry is in, and Amjad is in, so Yaman is taking his stop. As you see his floating car, that's not actually floating, it's just up on the invisible jacks at the moment, and obviously deciding to take tires, as I believe it was you, Richard, that predicted he would be taking that. So Joel Harshberger still out on track, and he's going to be bumped up into second, but Tony Lamberti is going to be bumped up into first, though he has yet to take his stop. We're getting word on split 3 that right now Scott Gruber from Texas is still leading. Chris Pence is in second, also from Texas, and then interestingly Virginia in third, Ken Brayton. So Virginia representing, and Chris Sigmund from the Carolinas sitting in fourth as well. We've got Doyle Lawrence in fifth for Texas there in split 3, if you were wondering about that. So quite a mix-up in that one. And we're hearing word that there's some strategy information we're getting from someone. I'm not sure who this is from. Oh,
well,
excuse me. This is our director. I forgot that our director actually ran in the race, previously run by Race Spot, actually broadcast by Race Spot. If you watch that, he raced in the Northwest Club. If you saw Kevin Brown out there, he says their strategy was to run 7.9 gallons to start, and then 12 gallons and tires to finish the race.
Well, Joe, now we've got an interesting situation here. Amjad Yaman has got some traffic ahead of him. Now we've not seen him deal with traffic at all. So with the speed that he's shown, he's going to be coming up on some cars that he may well have to pass before they duck into the pits for their pit stops. Be very interesting to see how he deals with the traffic as he comes through turn number 1 now. Cars a little way up the road from him still, but I will be watching to see how he deals with that situation, if indeed he has to.
And Bill, it sounds like you've spotted some more top drivers heading in?
Yeah, Joel Harshberger came in, pitting from, I believe he was running in second at the time, so he's going to come out well behind the Dr. Amjad Yaman. Nobody beats Amjad Yaman in a pit stop battle. But, so, while they're not running 1-2 on the track, they're virtually, I think, going to be running 1-2 once everybody cycles through their pit stops.
Did you see if... Oh, and Harshberger has a problem! Harshberger is off track. He manages to keep it on the tarmac, but the wrong tarmac, as he works his way through the sand trap back onto the main racing course. That is going to set him back. I was just about to ask, Bill, did you see if Harshberger took any tires? That was heading up into turn 5.
I was just going to check, and I'm going to think that was cold tires, but as I'm looking at his car right now sitting in the pits, yes, he did take tires.
So yeah, that could have been cold tires there. We're going to watch that replay one more time, heading down through the S's. We saw Van Divert have this same problem under braking, Richard. It seems like one of the qualities of the car with that weight in the rear.
Correct. And going into turn 5, where you have a large change of direction, or sudden change of direction, I should say, the car gets very, very loose, and no doubt our director will attest to that. So Joel Harshberger suffered from that. He was way out on the marbles on turn 5 there, but he didn't get any damage. He's back on the racetrack. He has an opportunity. So Tony Lamberti, who has yet to pit, there's about 4 cars that have yet to pit. Lamberti, Andy Frame, Jack Hinchman, Bill Brown. These are the top 4 at the moment, Joe, but they have not pitted. The real race leader will be Amjad Yaman once these guys do pit. But as I was saying earlier, the interesting thing will be when Amjad comes up on Bill Brown, as he should do if he's got enough pace, which he certainly has shown here today. And let's see if he comes up before Bill Brown decides to duck into the pits. But I want to see him overtake cars.
And we're hearing that Florida is not doing very well in the third split, so that is not helping their chances, especially with Joel Harshberger losing positions as we watch Amjad Yaman. I am taking a look at Jamie Macari, who I understand has come in and out for his pits, and I'm not sure if we can get a blimp shot or a nice big wide shot and go from Jamie off to Joel Harshberger to give you an idea of how much time Joel has lost from his mistake, because it is hugely significant.
Yeah, Joe, the top 3 cars are not even in sight of each other on the track right now. Macari cannot see Amjad Yaman, and Harshberger can't see Macari, so the top 3 are really spread out.
And in fact, I think as long as Lamberti, doesn't have a bad stop or a mistake somewhere along the way, he might be able to still slot in ahead of Macari and take over that second spot. Lamberti has yet to pit, as I implied, but just behind him you can also see Derek Waller. Those Texas machines obviously doing quite a fine job out there. And Derek Waller is sitting in 11th at the moment. Sorry for that misinformation, but I was going to say sporting a nice little GSRC sticker, so that was quite nice of Texas to do that for us.
It's always nice to get a little screen time for the broadcasters, huh?
Screen time on our own channel? I'm not sure how much that'll help us.
Well, guys, we have 17 minutes to go in this race, so still a fair bit of time. These guys who have not pitted yet, they must be in survival mode at this point in time. I'm having a look at their lap times. The lap times have gone from 124s to 125s. Andy Frame even up to 127s. Jack Hinchman in 126s. So that certainly does attest to the fact that the tires go off, and they go off big time here. That top 4 must be suffering. I think strategy-wise, it might be better to bring that car in and get some fresh rubber under you, hey?
And not only that, but we're hearing that lap 22 is about the final lap that you can get to on fuel. So, at least according to our director. Meanwhile, we're watching Bill Brown currently sitting in 4th, and Bill has yet to take his stop yet, though. And there's quite a fracas going on here between Brandon Schulhoff, Chad Holmes, and Jack Hinchman. And this is for 11th, 12th, and 13th position, it looks like.
Yeah, just having a look at that now. Chad Holmes is in the 28 machine. He's coming up to Jack Hinchman down the straightaway, going into the chicane now. He does back down a little bit and does not try to make any moves, but now he closes right up. He's going to go on the inside. Hinchman here. This is a very tough corner to take side by side. He goes onto the curbing, gets it done right there, Joe. Jack Hinchman gives him room, and Jack Hinchman comes back, then backs off again. So he did decide in the end to give up the position, and we've got a car on the left-hand side there as well. That was Van Diver, I believe. Yes,
yeah, that was Van Diver. And just a good thing he didn't spin in front of him. I was worried that was going to happen. Amjad Yaman just went by his teammate of Jack Hinchman. So Yaman being the effective leader once pit stops cycle through, we believe. So obviously we don't want to see him be taken out by a spinning back marker. And now he's going to work on Chad Holmes. We're getting word that Sam Boren from Texas has a 17.5 second lead in split 2. So Sam Boren is doing quite a good job over there, and Chad Holmes is moving over to the inside with Yaman trying to slipstream on past down the backstretch. Let's see if he's going to be able to do it. This is different clubs. In fact, Florida, who is trying to challenge Texas, so he is not letting him have it nicely, as now finally Amjad Yaman slips his way past the lapped car.
Well, that was a fairly easy pass. I've been watching him go by Jack Hinchman, and he's now on track. He's back in 3rd position, but he's got 2 cars in front of him that have not yet done their pit stop. And of course, he's got 1 car behind him now that hasn't done a pit stop yet as well. So Jack Hinchman is that 4th place Texas Club guy at the moment. He should really bring that car in. So at the moment, Amjad Yaman in Texas, we've got Tony Lamberti and Andy Frame, one from Texas, one from Florida. If I were their spotters, I'd be saying bring this car in for tires, but of course they must have planned this. That's their strategy. Let's see how it plays out for them.
Yes, in fact, Lamberti, Frame, and Hinchman are the only drivers who are yet to pit at the moment.
And Amjad Yaman has actually gone around Hinchman, who has yet to make his pit stop. So Yaman's running in 3rd right now, ahead of some cars who have still yet to pit.
I think it's pretty obvious at this point that Yaman is going to be the car to inherit the lead once those guys stop in. And I agree with Richard. It's time for some of these cars to pit. In fact, Lamberti stays out into lap 23, so continues to lead this race. There's no bonus points for leading.
He's hoping for rain, I think.
Pretty much. I guess maybe he's wanting some, since I guess I don't get too much in Texas. But he, as he continues on, we're watching. Well, now we've switched to Lamberti, who works his way through turns 4, now heading down into the S's.
If the sim were to crash, see, he's gone 50% of the race, so he'd be the winner. So stay out there, baby. Stay out there. Hope for lightning to strike, man.
Interesting strategy. I'm not sure if that's really the effective one I would go for, but he's got to come in at some point, and you can see he does have some damage on the right front of that machine. Just slight damage, it looks like.
Well, Andy Frame in the 2nd position on track at the moment stayed out into lap 23 as well, and so did Jack Hinchman. So these guys are working to a strategy. Be interesting to see if it works for them, but they are all, let's see, one is a Texan, Tony Lamberti and Jack Hinchman, also from Texas. So maybe they've got a team strategy happening there with Amjad Yaman coming in early and the other two staying out late.
Here comes the leader.
Yep, Lamberti now heading into his pit stall. Andy Frame is a Floridian, so he is from a different club there.
And Frame's coming in too, so that's they ran it as long as they could.
Yeah, obviously. And Hinchman's the last one. Is he going to come in? Yes, he does. Hinchman is in as well.
And they'll only have 9 or 10 laps to go when they do come out. I want to see if these guys take tires. You would think that they would. Although I could be wrong, but I saw Jamie Macari not take tires when he went in for his pit stop. So I took my eyes off him for a little while, so he may have taken tires, but I didn't see any tires going on. So I wonder if that was the case, because he made an early pit stop.
And it's pretty clear, excuse me, Bill, 1 second, pretty clear that the tires, going long on the tires was not the way to go, because Jamie Macari has a big old gap on the car that he was leading before, Tony Lamberti.
See, what Lamberti did was just came in for a splash and go.
And we can see Macari going off. He was in second place. Unfortunately, that gap that he had is now closed down as Lamberti closes in on the back of that Texas roof. They do not need to swap positions, though, because we've got a Texas 1, 2, 3 at the moment.
Yes, indeed. So Jamie hangs on to that second place. I'm beginning to think I was right. He didn't take tires at all. Or maybe that was just a mistake that he made in driving. But 1, 2, 3, I don't think there'll be strong challenges from Tony Lamberti on Jamie Macari, unless it's for bragging rights within the club itself. But you're right, Joe. Texas 1, 2, 3. This is kind of a whitewash.
Well, it's not over yet, because remember, they do have the other splits to worry about. And here's the interesting thing. We're getting information split 2. Top 5 are Texas, Virginia, Texas, Florida, Virginia. So Virginia having a very good showing in split 2. That could be an interesting little upset.
Yeah, it could. Unfortunately, in this race, there's only one car from the Virginias. That's Rob Cody. And he's in
dead
the last position right here. So he's not going to help his club in the top splits. As we see now, Jack Hinchman coming into the pits, or is he leaving the pits? Let's have a quick look there. Coming into the pit lane. So Jack Hinchman, this will be his first stop going into the pits right now.
Is this his first stop? I thought he'd come in
second.
I was going to say. I thought he had come in before.
Sorry to jump all over you there, Joe. My apologies. Yes,
it's okay.
It is definitely 2 stops for him. No tires taken there, as you would expect. Just a splash of fuel. So quite mystifying as to why he needed to come in.
Not sure. Could have been a speeding penalty we're hearing, but that is not confirmed, so we will try and investigate. Meanwhile, we're looking at Lamberti, who's still sitting in that 3rd position behind his teammate Macari. So we're not sure if we're going to see a race here again with these guys racing for team points, even though individual glory is kind of a nice feather in your cap. I'm not sure that they would want to battle too hard out on track and consolidate a domination of the podium in Group D here for Texas, at least in the top split. So as the race continues on, I did see that Yaman had a bit of a scary moment coming up on William Van Diver in turn 5 about a lap ago, and was able to work his way past him. In fact, for some reason, he's got Chad Holmes, who is a lap down, holding on to the back of him. That's a Floridian. So Chad, obviously not going to be playing any dirty tactics. They uphold the drivers in the World Cup to very high standards, but certainly giving Amjad reason to be nervous, I suppose, sitting back there.
Yes, I was just thinking there, Joe, that some instructions go out from the spotters. Hey, that's a Texas guy in front of you, do something. But as you say, they've got very high standards. I very much doubt whether he would do anything like that, Chad Holmes. But he is hanging on to the back.
Pass for second here.
Yeah, and we're watching it on screen as Lamberti slips on by. In fact, I wonder if that was that team tactics, Bill? I didn't see it at the start of it, but he went by on the straight.
Yeah, here's what you had going on. You had Lamberti came in for that splash and go. He was on old tires, but Markari had put it in the wall, remember, on that little spin, so maybe he had some damage and they just let it go. It's really not going to matter. You know, I think I remember reading somewhere, and I hate to give false information on this, but I think the time slot is based on, to get a good time slot, I think it's based on the most points. So I think this Texas team would like to score as many points as they could to maybe get kind of that home court advantage. I could be wrong on that, but I think the preferable time slot is based on how much you score.
Yeah, and right now they're looking pretty good, but we're getting word that was for this round, actually, so it was the previous rounds of races that decided when these guys are going to be driving. So as we watch Macari, who's got a little bit of a gap up to Lamberti at this point, not really much of a race anymore for this second and third. So let's go through our order real quick because everybody's starting to get kind of spread out. Things are calming down. We've got about 6 minutes left to go on the clock. Amjad Yaman obviously leading. He's got a 12-second lead last time by the line. That might be a little bit more because I know Lamberti, who's sitting in second. Lamberti, excuse me. I must be thinking football. Lamberti, I apologize, is sitting in second at the moment. Jamie Macari is sitting in third. Joel Harshberger is in fourth, and Andy Frame rounds out the top five. Richard?
Yeah, and I'm driving along here with Joel Harshberger, and I was looking up ahead of him, and I saw a car, and I wondered whether that was Jamie McCarty, but unfortunately for Joel, it is the back marker of William Vandiver, so he is way too far back to catch Jamie McCarty in the few laps that are left here, Joe. So unless something really weird happens, it's going to be Texas 1, 2, 3, and then Florida 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. And in fact, I remember I was watching Split 2 in the oval race. That's pretty much what happened there, except in the reverse with Florida dominating, and then it was Texas from there on down. So, and we're getting word that the time for the finals should actually be set. We're not entirely sure, so so I guess that wasn't really official word anyways. But anyways, we're still watching. We were on Harshberger, now we're on Jamie Macari sitting in third, following his teammate Dooley to the line. We've got less than 5 minutes to go, and unfortunately, unless somebody has a mistake along the line, it's looking pretty sewn up for most of the drivers. There's very few with battles going on.
Hey,
Well, the best we can... Sorry, go ahead, Bill.
Let's give a shout out to Zachary Morris. He's the top driver who's not from Texas or Florida, having a nice race in that dark-colored car. They're in 7th place right now. From where does he hail from? It's not Texas, not Florida. It's Carolina is where he's from.
Yep, that beautiful painted car there. And go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, I'm looking down the list here to see where we can find a battle between two different club drivers.
Good luck,
But,
baby. Good luck.
Not that much happening, Joe.
Yeah, unfortunately, I spotted, Chad Holmes and Andy Frame, but they're on opposite laps, so they're not battling out on track. And obviously, same club once again in Florida, and those two roofs, and Frame currently sitting in 5th. In fact, Florida is looking at 4th place and 5th place at the moment. Joel Harshberger, despite his significant off up in turn 5, is still holding on to that 4th position in that green machine, and he is nobody around to really try and challenge, which is a shame because I think he probably would have been up with Macari if he had not had that off.
Well, guys, if you're digging for something, we can go back to 10th place there with Derek Waller. Yeah, and Eric, I can't. Do you want to pronounce that name there? Eric Hansard. Sorry, I don't have my reading on Hansard. They're running for 9th and 10th there. One's from Texas, one from Florida. So that's really the best I can find. As I say that, Derek goes off track as I'm talking.
Well, that brings Eric Hansard a little closer to him. So maybe the closing laps, and there can only be 2 or 3 laps. Well, 3 or 4 laps left. Maybe we will see a little battle happening here between two different clubs, but he's still a pretty way back. Eric Hansard is from Derek Waller, so nothing happening just at the moment here, Joe.
Well, since we've got a bit of a lull and we're almost running out of time, let's bring two of our spotters in for the other splits and get some info. Sam, what's been going down in split 3, I believe you're watching?
Yes, sir. Scott Gruber has absolutely been dominating the race. He currently holds a 35-second lead over Chris Pence, who is also from Texas. Ken Brayton has done a solid effort for Virginia. He's currently running in third. However, the other two drivers from Virginia that started are out of the race. Doyle Lawrence also putting on a strong performance from Texas in fourth, and that's really the big winner in the third split, because the drivers from Florida are pretty much out of a race or running in between 5th and 10th somewhere. 5th is as highest as they are Matthew Scott, so not a good race from Florida in the third split, but a dominating performance right now by Scott Gruber, who has about 2.5 minutes left to bring it home.
Meanwhile, in split 2, we had Ayrton watching. Ayrton, what can you give us on that one?
Well, similar to split 3, there's a huge lead with Sam Bourne from Texas. He has a 33-second lead ahead of Tristan Combs, who's from Virginia. And then Kevin Riedel is from Florida in third place. And then there's Brett Trozen from Texas. And then Teddy Wyke, which is also from Virginia. Everyone else is a lap down. And really, the only two contenders for the win early on were Dalton Baldwin and Clifton Cockrell, but they had a big crash that sent them both a lap down within the first few laps.
So, tragedy taking place over in split 2, unfortunately. We never like to see drivers' races end prematurely, or at least be set back in that way. And Bill, it sounds like as we watch the clock tick down, it's
Joe,
like
a little bit of
close.
action here, if I may break in. It looks like Macari is going to take the second position from Tony Lamberti. They nearly came together in turn 3 on the previous lap, and I think Macari has decided that Tony Lamberti has no tires left. He better get ahead of him in case the two of them come together, and that's exactly what's happened. Jamie Macari up to second place.
Well, the clock is now ticking down to 0 just now, so it is now the white flag lap with Amjad leading them around to the checkers. And Bill, I think you noticed some things in the points as far as Texas goes. What is this shaping up like now?
Well, we'll do it real quickly before they go for the checker, but, you know, Texas came in 20 points behind after the oval results, but I think from what I'm hearing, I can just gut feeling it that Texas has racked up enough points to not only close that distance, but I'm gonna call them as the unofficial winner of this round of the World Cup.
Well, as we found here on GSRC, it ain't over till it's over. We always say that, and it always seems to come true. So I'm not going to call this one yet until
take it to the bank, baby. Take it to the bank.
Until things are done and everyone has crossed the line. Right now, Amjad Yaman is well clear. Last time by, it was 15.5 seconds to his teammate Jamie Macari. No threat there. And the doctor absolutely destroying everybody today as he goes through the chicane one last time, up and over the hill, around the final corner to the start-finish line. Amjad Yaman is going to win the road round of Heat D here today at Road Atlanta. Meanwhile, Jamie Macari also coming up over. He is well clear of his teammate Tony Lombardi. Jamie Macari is going to take 2, and however, Lombardi is battling with Hirschberger. Hirschberger from Florida is able to take that third position, denies them of a podium sweep. Joel Hirschberger takes that third spot at the line.
Well, that is unbelievable. Joel Hirschberger came from nowhere, was way back behind third place, behind second place, came from nowhere and grabs the the third place away from Tony Lamberti. Now, we did see Tony Lamberti, Joe, was having some problems. That's why Jamie Macari passed him. So obviously he slowed down significantly and gave Joel Hirschberger the opportunity.
I think he ran out of gas. I was
just going to say.
Yeah, I hear him spluttering. I went back on the replay. I think he cut the fuel too short and he sputtered across.
Oh, heartbreak for Lombardi. Lombardi. Oh man, I keep botching that name today. Lombardi, who was looking like an assured second place for much of the race, slips down to fourth off the podium at the end.
His strategy was to run long, not take tires, and do that quick splash and go. and apparently his quick splash and go was just a little too quick.
Yeah, as we saw. So with, I believe, everybody should have crossed the line. Yep, we've got everybody finished. We are going to go to a quick break. We'll come back with some interviews and hopefully have the unofficial results, including points. We'll try and get them tallied up as quick as we can. We'll see what we can do, but stick around. Welcome back to Road Atlanta after what was a race dominated by Texas here in the top split. It was Amjad Yaman who came home with the win by 13.7 seconds over his teammate Jamie Macari, who came home in second. And then in third, it looked like it was going to be a Texas podium, but Joel Harshbarger, ruined the party and came home in third for Florida. Then we've got Tony Lamberti in fourth and Andy Frame in fifth, Richard.
Yes, and in sixth place we had Bill Brown from Florida. In seventh place, Zachary Morris from Carolina. Good job from Zachary. Jack Hinchman in eighth place from Texas. And ninth place, Derek Waller, also from Texas. And in 10th place, Chad Holmes from Florida.
Gary Anderson in 11th, Eric Hansard in 12th, William Van Diver in 13th, Brandon Schuldolf in 14th, and he finished, Rob Cody finished 6 lap back after having a bad early race, wrapping up the field in 14th. Nice job, Rob.
Well, meanwhile, our number crunchers, who are they again? Bill Poindexter and what were their names?
Sherman and Poindexter.
Sherman and Poindexter are number crunching for us to get us the results, and we'll hand those over to you to tell you what the results were for the road round. We'll see if we can maybe add them up with what happened in the over round to give you the unofficial points results overall for Group D. But in the meantime, we do have some interviews, including our winner of the race, Amjad Yaman. And let's see if yes, here we go. We got Amjad here in the room. Amjad, boy, it looked like it was a cakewalk from up here. What was it like down in the car?
Yeah, it was pretty much, but it's one of the first times I've driven a C-Spec, and it's definitely not a cakewalk to drive. You have to be focused 100%. But yeah, it was all about keeping my pace and just practicing for the finals, basically.
Well, I did see that traffic came into play from time to time. Were there any moments where you're a little bit worried? I know there was a point where you came up on turn 5, coming up on Van Diver, that looked a little hairy to me.
Yeah, that's one of the cases of someone trying to be a little bit too nice. That's one of the places you don't want to lift. You want to let people buy on straights, not in the S's. So a little miscommunication, but we got through.
Well, congratulations on winning this heat. Well done job, and hopefully we'll get you some information soon on how your club did. Let's see. I know you brought some friends with you from the club. Who else do we got here? Looks like we have... yeah, unfortunately, I'm not recognizing some of these names here. Were any of these drivers in the race?
Strangers at the booth.
He's our Texas club captain, if you want to talk to him.
Oh, club captain. So were they running strategy for you?
Yeah, for the...
Yeah,
he was definitely keeping it easy for us.
Let's talk to Alan then. Alan, so we understand you were team captain.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's looking like on the surface, and the numbers that I'm seeing in the chat here are looking pretty good for Texas. Are you pleased with today's 2 races?
We are absolutely just stoked. We are so excited. Our whole TeamSpeak server is full of people cheering on the broadcast, following the live timing and everything.
Well, you guys certainly put on quite a show out there here on the roadside, doing a fantastic job. Almost sweep the podium. And was it fuel that Tony had lost at the end there?
Yeah, I was actually spotting for Tony in the race, and he just came up just a few drops short on fuel.
Oh, heartbreak there, but still, a first, a second, and a fourth is nothing to be ashamed of. Congratulations on a job well done here at Road Atlanta.
Thank you, and thank you to all the other competitors out there, and a shout out to Andy Frame and Florida Club. Some great competition. We had a blast.
So, an update on the points. We have them in, and again, these are unofficial. These are tallied by here at GSRC. These are not, as we see a replay of that early lap incident there between 2 drivers in the chicane. Texas scored 521 points here in this round, in the road round, and Florida scored 463. So, the final scores between the two in this heat, both combined, Texas 1,014 points. Florida, 976 points. So Texas is going to move on, and that means if our math is right,
take it to the bank, baby. It's
Florida is going to be the the wild card in the finals. Wow. Who expected that?
Well, Joe, so what you're saying there is that both Texas and Florida got more points than Iberia, is that right?
Yes.
Well, it doesn't matter if Texas got more points than Iberia or not. They got the most points in their heat. So Texas is for sure going on. Florida got more points. They earned 976 if we are scoring this right. So again, this is unofficial, but we believe that Florida is going to be the wild card in the final round of the iRacing World Cup in 2014. So those guys have reason to cheer. That means we've got 2 American clubs. They're going to be moving on into the final round. So as an American, I have to say I'm pretty pleased on that one. So we are going to wrap up today, and with this one being the final race. Excuse me, I'm getting. Oh, excuse me. We've got Sam B and Scott. I'm not sure. Sam Bourne and Scott Gruber. So these were drivers. I know Scott Gruber, I believe, was in the oval race. So we've got Sam Bourne in with us. Sam, what was your role in the Texas team?
I was just, trying to do the best I could and help the team out. I got very fortunate with some good setup help and just a good team behind me to give me a lot of pointers and tips.
So having won Split 2, what was your strategy heading into this thing?
Basically just trying not to overdrive the car, backing up my brake points a little bit, and basically just smooth inputs, and hoping that I could get my pit in and pit out good.
We understand that there was a little bit of chaos early on in the race with a big wreck that happened. Did you happen to see any of that, or were you ahead of that?
I started out on the pole, and I did not catch any of that.
Well, at least you managed to avoid that. Again, congratulations on your win and your split.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks GSRC for posting this and televising.
You're very welcome. Thanks for giving us a show. Up next, we have Scott, who won in Split 3. And Scott, what was the competition like down there? How many drivers did you have in your field? Because it was a little thin up in Split 1.
I didn't really check to see what the final count was, but I think we started with nearly a full field.
Well, you guys might have had a little bit more of a full track than we did. We had about 15 cars up there. So with it being the bottom split, was the competition pretty fierce down there, or was it pretty easy? Because Amjad pretty much walked away with it up in the top split.
Well, I mean, I finished 40 seconds ahead of the rest of the field, but from second place back, it looked pretty tight.
So it sounds like Texas did a pretty good job up at the top of each one. Well, unfortunately, we need to wrap up here soon. So again, I just want to congratulate you and your club. You guys did a really good job here in this last round on the road.
Teamwork, teamwork, teamwork. That's what it's all about for us.
Absolutely, and we always call racing a team sport, and in the World Cup it is ever more so. Before we wrap up, I want to get my co-commentators' thoughts on this one. Bill, it was a little boring up at the very front of the field, but we did get some good racing in the mid-pack.
You know, my first thought is Amjad Yaman has to work on his Texas accent, or we're not going to interview him anymore. Those last guys were great. I hope to interview them again. I think it's going to be culture shock for these guys. I'm glad some U.S. got some clubs in, but my hunch is when they get to the final round, it's going to be a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a little bit more fiercer competition with it being the cream of the crop they're facing off with. Richard, what are your thoughts?
Well, I've been sitting here thinking about this, Joe, and for me, this was not the most exciting race, but you know, as far as I'm concerned, all racing, I love motor racing of any description, really, and even sim racing. So this wasn't the most exciting race, but it was a good race. People were out there doing their very best for their clubs. This was a team thing, and you know, good on them. They came out. Texas did a marvelous job, solidified its position in the finals. And Florida, a magnificent job from them to really grab that second place or that wild card. So a good race from my point of view.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed this one, and I have to say I'm impressed with both the road and oval chops of the Texas club, who have worked themselves up into the final round of the World Cup this year. We're going to take off here at GSRC, but before we go, we want to thank a few people. Obviously, thanks to Mike Willett and Cottier Scott, who both do a lot to organize the World Cup. This is a lot of work to make this thing happen each year, and these people do so much good work to make it kick off. Obviously, thank you to the other broadcasters who put on a great show as well today, V8's Online, BSR TV, and Race Spots. And thank you to iRacing.com, XSplit, Twitch TV, Audio Technica, Behringer, and AverMedia. Those are the software and hardware that we use to make these broadcasts possible. Thanks to the team today, Bill and Richard and Kevin. Also thanks to Samuel Ryman, Ayrton Ellis, and Sean Ambrose, our guys behind the scenes that work social media and watch the other splits. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and race highlights. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /Global Sim Racing Channel. Thanks goes out to Dougie Beard, who creates all the camera sets for the Global Sim Racing Channel, and a special thank you to Eric Heckholm, whose music is not only found here on GSRC, but in TV commercials, movie trailers, iTunes, and even Spotify. If you like our music, tell Eric we heard it on Twitter. His handle is at Eric Eckholm. Additional thanks to Casey Lalonde, who also provides us with the music for our broadcast. You can find more of his music at caseylalonde.bandcamp.com, including his latest album, Floating Rooms, on sale now for $10. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and I'll see you on the track.